So what if Zack Snyder's Justice League movie wasn't a movie at all? Hey guys, it's Sean O'Connell, the managing director here at Cinema Blend and the host of this weekly Snyder Cut series here on Cinema Blend's YouTube page. And this week in particular, we want to dive into my belief personally that the Snyder Cut of Zack Snyder's Justice League, which is coming to HBO Max in 2021, would work better as a TV series. Before I explain to you all of my thoughts and rationale behind this, go down, hit subscribe, turn on your notifications, especially if you're interested in Zack Snyder's Justice League, because we're going to be posting videos every single week, and we want to make sure that you guys see all of them.
I'm in.
So the rumor about Zack Snyder's Justice League is that when it goes to HBO Max, it still has the potential to be a long movie, like a 4-hour movie, or have Zack Snyder break it down into episodes. And I'm here to tell you that I think he would be smart to break it down into episodes. Now, needless to say, we're going to go with whatever Zack decides. This is his cut of Justice League, and he's allowed to tinker with it, and whatever he delivers, we're going to get behind.
We're with you till it's done.
However, if Zack wanted to listen to my opinion, I think that it would be really smart for him to take the existing material that he has, which is allegedly around 4 hours, if not a little bit more than 4 hours of footage that he had from the first assemblage that he put together, and break that down into episodes. And mainly because we know that Zack's story will have more time to breathe if it's allowed to sort of exist in a longer format that HBO Max sort of lends itself to. We know that he's done a lot of character development. We know that one of the things that we rushed through in the theatrical cut is that huge sequences and backstories and a lot of the mythology that Zack wanted to bring to the Justice League story got left on the cutting room floor as Joss Whedon aimed for more jokes and humorous scenes because he thought that would play better.
Jesus. He is tall.
There was also a runtime mandate that allegedly was handed down by the studio at the time that Whedon was trying to deliver the theatrical cut, that they had to deliver the movie at under 2 hours. And I think the theatrical cut comes in at like 1 hour, 59 and 59 seconds. It's like right there at the 2 hour mark.
Right there.
Zack had been saying for the longest time that his Snyder Cut was going to be 214 minutes, but I think he has a lot more footage that he could have worked on, and of course he wanted to do some additional photography before he's able to bring Snyder Cut to HBO Max. Allowing it to be in a multi-episode format would give those story beats time to sort of expand out. You could do a Cyborg episode, you could do a Flash episode, you could focus one entire episode on the resurrection of Superman.
Well, in that case,
The thing that would sort of stand in the way of being able to do that is how can you sort of tease the way an episode is supposed to end if it's planned to be an episode versus taking a 4-hour movie and sort of cutting it up into chapters. But I think I know how Zack can figure that out.
I'm impressed.
Don't be.
So the thing about the Snyder Cut is that the structure that Zack intended on delivering can now change. You have to think back to the fact that when he was editing Justice League the first time through, when it was going to come to theaters in 2017, he saw it as a, let's say, 2.5 hour runtime film that he was eventually going to trim down and get ready for theatrical release. Now, of course, he walked away from the project and then we don't, it went in a bunch of different directions after that.
Yeah, that's the abridged version.
But Zack had all of this footage in mind, and his mindset at the time was still to tell a coherent story that went for, let's say, roughly 2.5 hours. Now that he has the freedom to go back and take a look at this material years later and decide what the Snyder Cut is going to look like without having to necessarily set up films that have to come before it or answer to things that came after BVS, although I think he's definitely going to continue plot lines that went from BVS into this. He can look at it through fresh eyes and sort of step back and look at the big picture and say, oh, if I'm able to rearrange the structure from the way that it originally was, then maybe I can see it play out more in a way that episodes make more sense. And I'm going to relate this ever so slightly, and not that I'm trying to put them anywhere near the same bar, but I'll tell you, when I was writing the book about the Snyder Cut movement, there were times when I saw a chapter that was late in the process. It existed late in the structure of the story that I realized, no, this actually has to go all the way up to the top because it makes a little bit more sense. And to make a comparison to what Zack might want to do, and again, this is just me speculating, but there's a history lesson that we know is going to be in Zack Snyder's Justice League, and it's going to show the way that the mother boxes landed here on our planet and the way that the Atlanteans and the Amazonians got possession of their mother boxes, and we don't know exactly where the history lesson is going to fit. We believe that it's going to be longer, but when I went to the set of Zack Snyder's Justice League back in 2016, he was going to open the movie with the history lesson. The theatrical cut puts it more in the middle of the story when Diana has to sort of explain it to Bruce to give him some history about where the mother boxes come from.
They don't contain power. They are power.
But Zack could make the history lesson part of its own episode, and it could be the first episode or the second episode. With HBO Max allowing him to say, look, you deliver what your cut of this is going to be, I think that he has the ability to sort of play around with what he has already and put it in a format that might work a little bit better on a week-to-week basis.
I agree.
Before I get into the third section, let me just sort of put this out on the record, is that I don't really know what Zack's decision is going to be, but I can tell you that at the end of his presentation at JusticeCon, which was the fan-driven Zack Snyder focused convention that they held online that the Nerd Queens and Meg hosted and sponsored, Zack was saying that we will learn the answer to is this a movie or a TV series when he gives his presentation at DC FanDome, the virtual event that's going to be held on August 22nd. And there were moments when Zack looked like he was about to answer something and then kind of had to stop himself. And as I watched him, now listen, I'm watching with that eye of scrutiny, but as I was watching him sort of react to some of those answers or look like he wanted to answer how he's approaching the material now, it really did feel like he's thinking of it from an episodic point of view.
Look, the truth is, regardless of how it comes out, you can always watch it. You'll always be able to watch it.
Okay, so if we have something cool to talk about every single week for Zack Snyder's Justice League, that's only going to help the momentum of the project and maybe the potential of Snyderverse projects moving forward after this. Think about when Disney Plus launched. It wasn't shortly after the launch date when they had The Mandalorian to lure Star Wars fans over to their new streaming service, but it also gave us in the media and fans on social media something to talk about regards to The Mandalorian. We would get into the new stories. Obviously, Baby Yoda was a huge impact on that show. It raised the profile of Disney Plus in a way that HBO Max really needs, and it built anticipation. We would get to the end of an episode and we would rush to social media to sort of discuss what had just happened. I can't begin to imagine the amount of discourse that would flow out of a weekly Zack Snyder's Justice League episode series, where at the end of each one, they tease what's to come, because he has all the footage. He can put together amazing trailers at the end of every single episode, but also just breaking down the differences between what we're seeing in, say, an episode of the Snyder Cut versus the way that it was presented in the theatrical cut. The amount of chatter would be so valuable to both the DC universe, to the potential expansion of the Snyderverse, to HBO Max, where you just keep reminding people on a week-to-week basis the only way that you can see this is to subscribe to HBO Max. That format just feels like such a win for everybody involved. Now, again, if it's a movie, it's a movie. But if it is just a 3.5, 4-hour movie that drops once on whatever date they decide in 2021, and we all talk about it for a week or two, and then sort of move on to the next thing. I'm not talking about Snyder enthusiasts. I know you guys will be discussing it for months and months.
Save it.
I'm saying the pop culture universe at large. Like, if this drops, everybody talks about it for a week or two, and then they move on to whatever the next big blockbuster project is. We like shiny objects, and we sort of gravitate towards them. It's detrimental. It's not the best case scenario for something like this, where they could really build on momentum week after week and episode after episode, building to this giant conclusion, because one of the most exciting things about the Snyder Cut is we don't know how it's going to end. I think that Zack's original version that was supposed to come to theaters in 2017 would have ended on a cliffhanger, something that would have teased where he was going to go with future Justice League movies. Now, because the future of the franchise being uncertain, we don't know if he even is going to be allowed to continue. We don't know if he wants to continue. We don't know if this is just a completely separate one-off or an Elseworld Justice League story, the way that he's described it. So if you keep the fan base sort of dangling, waiting to see what that ending is going to be, that final episode could just be peak entertainment, peak television that everybody will be tuned in for, and you miss that opportunity if it's just a 4-hour movie that's dropped at once.
I dig it.
Okay, now it's your guys' turn. Tell me what you would prefer. Do you want to see Zack Snyder's Justice League as the 4-hour movie, or would you love to see the filmmaker sort of step back, approach the material as a showrunner who's putting together multiple episodes, and then is able to present them on a week-to-week basis that lures people into HBO Max? Head down to the comment section below and tell me which one you would prefer. I said series, so if you want to tell me why I'm wrong, feel free to do that, and you and I can interact in the comments down below. While you are down there, again, do me a favor, hit subscribe, turn on your notifications, and then that way, every time we post a new entertainment video here on Cinema Blend's YouTube page, you guys can come right over and watch it with us.